What's up, folks? Trev here, one of the Gots to Do Better brothers, and I'm here with a short update because I heard this report today and I want you to listen to this video. It speaks about the credit rating of the United States and how that has been downgraded for the first time by Moody's, I think it was. Anyway, you'll hear it here. First time since 1917 or something like that. Anyway, some crazy number like that. But when you listen to this, I want you to remember what we have been echoing for the past few months. Basically, the 250-year cycle, the average cycle of an empire, which for the United States, if you count from 1776, would be in 2026. And how usually the fall of an empire has to do with debt. So I want you to keep all that in mind as you listen to this. But I also want you to keep one other thing in mind, something else that we have been referencing in a couple of videos here, which is the intersection of that 250-year cycle with the 400-year rise prophesized in the Bible. Always got to get spiritual here because that's where we're coming from. Anyway, listen to this and I'll comment on the other end.
All right, y'all. So this story here is a big deal. The United States just lost its perfect credit rating because of our rising debt. So it's a little more complicated than that. Let me walk you through it here. This is what they say in BBC. The U.S. has lost its last perfect credit rating as influential ratings firm Moody's expressed concern over the government's ability to pay back its debt. In lowering the U.S. rating from AAA to AA1, Moody's noted that successive U.S. administrations had failed to reverse ballooning deficits and interest costs. A AAA rating signifies a country's highest possible credit reliability and indicates it is considered to be in very good financial health with a strong capacity to repay its debts. Moody's warned in 2023 the U.S. AAA rating was at risk. Fitch Ratings downgraded the U.S. in 2023, and S&P Global Ratings did so in 2011. So that was like towards the end of the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. But Moody's was the last one that still had the U.S. with a perfect rating. And it was perfect since literally 1917. A lower credit rating means countries are more likely to default on their sovereign debt and generally face higher borrowing costs. Moody's maintained that the U.S. retains exceptional credit strengths such as size, resilience, and dynamism, and the continued role of the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. That's where I think we get to the truth of the matter, y'all. Is that I really don't think this has much to do. It has a little bit to do with debt, but the only reason the debt matters now and why the debt is a big deal now and why we're being knocked for the debt now is because we've laid all the groundwork for eventually the abandonment of the dollar as the world reserve currency. And so because that's in question, then the debt matters, right? If that wasn't in question, then having the big debt, it doesn't matter because there's already tremendous faith and confidence in the dollar. It's the global currency, so that inherently makes it more stable, right? So when we had recessions in the past, the dollar would get stronger because people would do what's called the flight to safety. So get out of stocks and run to the dollar, right? Because that's safer. That's how people viewed it. Well, now people are going, well, we don't like the U.S. We don't like the dollar as the world reserve currency. We think they're kind of crazy and making insane decisions. So now the flight to safety is more the flight to gold, for example. And so as a direct result of the dollar being undermined now, that's why the debt matters. Because the debt will actually become a huge problem if and when the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency.
So I hope you were listening to his explanation of the cause, part of the cause of why the world is losing trust in the U.S. dollar. And it's what we've been talking about. You may think that we are not being held accountable, well, not we, but white supremacy is not being held accountable because you only look nationally. But there's a global stage that is unavoidable. This whole thing about I want my freedom to do whatever, that does not fly around the world. One of the richest countries in natural resources and minerals, including gold, is Africa, which is why we believe that 400-year prophecy predicted in the Bible of the chosen people rising up after 400 years. I think it's Genesis 13:10. This is why we say Africa is rising. So take that for what it's worth. 1619 Forum. Follow us. We are building alternative economies. So when it does fall, that we'll be connected as communities. Alternative economies is what we are building here. Institutions. Anyway, follow us 1619forum.org. My name is Trev, one of the Gots to Do Better brothers. Until next time, peace and blessings.